Good afternoon, folks. This is Aaron Carmen. I am a social evangelist and digital marketing manager for North America Digital Sales. Thank you for taking the time this afternoon to attend the session on Introduction to Social Selling using Twitter. Today we will be going through some of the basics around Twitter as a social selling tool, and then also how to really use that as a seller to bring value to your job, both internally within IBM, to enhance your brand as a seller for IBM and also personally, and to also just kind of go through some basic strategies and methodologies behind how you can use Twitter to drive awareness, amplify your messaging, uncover new relationships and opportunities, as well as continue to broaden your follower base and so forth. Again, I am a social evangelist and digital marketing manager. I started this role January 1 of this year. Prior to that, I have been in sales my entire career for about 15 years, and multiple roles within IBM as far as sales are concerned, different industries, different solution sets, and so forth. So I really come into this role as a advocate for sales first and looking at it through a seller's eyes. If there's something that doesn't make sense for sellers, I try to eliminate any of the noise in the land of tools that we exist in within IBM, and really look at, does it add value to me as a seller? Does it add value to my clients? And does it help me achieve my objectives? And so I wanted to give you that little brief snippet on my background so you know where this is coming from. You know, as I mentioned, I've been in sales for 16 years, and when I first adopted and started using social technologies, I would say it was probably about 2 years ago, and I started down that journey, moving from the client exec role over to software group, and I looked at it as an opportunity to reinvent myself and really take a step back and look at how I was approaching my daily job and communicating with my clients and so forth. And so I really looked at social strategies and building my online brand and communicating with clients a little differently to explore that reinvention for myself. And over that 2-year period, it was a journey that I took through learning the different methodologies and social tools that were available and how to apply them in my job here at IBM. And with that journey, it led me to this role. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to work with teams like yourselves to help you in your personal journey as far as adopting the tools and really seeing and applying the value to your daily jobs and to reach new clients. So we start off just basically, what is social selling and why? And I know that we've had a couple sessions this week, and you've heard and sat on many other sessions as well. And there's a lot of different definitions for social selling and why we do it. But essentially, like I said, I like to break it back down to the core basics and the things that we do naturally as sellers and the things that we're being missioned to do within IBM and our daily jobs is to research our customers, our industries, our product sets, be relevant to our customers and our industries, and build relationships and drive revenue. Those are the ultimate factors that really tie into the success of you as a seller and IBM as a company. And when we look at social selling, it's essentially those components, and it's just using different tools and networks or methodologies to do the same things that we've been doing for years. And so I also like to start off with this quote, and it's something that is I mentioned in my journey and my personal growth over the past couple of years. Are you willing to take the journey? Are you willing to boldly venture into the digital age, be open to growing, pushing the boundaries, persistently adding to our skill sets? And that's something that as you start down this path within any social tool or any social selling experience, you have to constantly be willing to educate yourself, to learn, to grow, to adapt, and to change. As the industry changes, as our clients change, the way they consume information, you have to be willing to experiment and to continue to educate yourself constantly. And for me, it's a very gratifying experience to go through that process as well. And so today, as I mentioned, we're gonna talk on Twitter primarily. We're gonna understand the basics, the tools to enhance your profile, who to follow, when to tweet, and various functions of Twitter and how you can apply them to your role as a seller. Part 2 of this conversation will be next week when we start going into social listening, which will be a lot more strategic in nature. But today is going to be focused mostly on the foundational levels and building blocks of Twitter. And so the fundamentals of Twitter, it's, you hear about tweeting and, we got to send messages out and tweet a certain amount of messages per day and so forth. But when you really break it down, it's not about tweeting. It's about listening, and it's listening to your colleagues, listening to the brands that you support, the friends and influencers that you respect within your network, and really understanding what it is you're talking about and taking the time to listen and understand that. And then the second fundamental is it's still not about tweeting. It's about passing on good content and bringing value to your followers or your potential clients or your network. And it's about creating your own voice and creating your own content eventually. And that's the third pillar of Twitter and any really social selling aspect is eventually you really need to find your voice, find the content that's relevant to you and to your followers, and eventually evolve into creating your own content and sharing your opinions and thoughts to potential buyers and followers. So we include this slide just essentially for the folks that are brand new to Twitter that might not be familiar with some of the vocabulary that's used. I'm not going to go through each one of these. I really include this slide for folks when I do this presentation so that if you need to go back and better understand some of the terminology that's used, this slide is available and allows you to kind of go back and reference this. But essentially, it's just a breakdown of the common terms and vocabulary that you'll hear used around Twitter, but then also it's kind of spread into other social networks as well. So it's just a good reference point for folks on the call. And then also the components of a tweet. And again, for the folks on the call, if you're brand new to Twitter, this is essentially the building blocks and the components of every tweet that's sent out, and whether it's the body of the text, the message that you're sending, the mention, and then the person that the message is being directed to, any kind of links to media, imagery, videos, or websites that you want to include in your tweet. Essentially, this is everything that you're typically going to see in any message that you post out to your network. And so really it starts with your photo. And I know most of you have been on the sessions earlier this week, and I know Pamela went through the personal branding session. And I can't emphasize enough that, 2 years ago when I started my journey, I really looked at, okay, what is my brand? What is the value that I create to potential clients or my network? And I wanted that brand to be consistent across all platforms, and both internally and externally. So within Blue Pages, within same time meeting groups, externally through LinkedIn, Twitter, and various other social networks. I wanted my photo, my brand statement, my mission statement to all be unique to me and the value that I present, and consistent. So and like I said, it all starts with the photo, and it should be some basic building blocks as far as your photo. Make sure it's a clear photo of just you, that you are the focus of the image, and that you stand close to the camera but not too close. And we're going to go through a couple of examples briefly. If you look at these are pictures that I consider fails. The one on the far left is a group of men. If it was John Doe that is the profile owner, it's hard for me as a new potential client to understand whether it's one of those three gentlemen, if it's the one in the middle, the one on the left or right. So the advice is always to include just a shot of yourself, and honestly think about the fact that I've seen profile pictures with people and their wives or their kids, their dogs. This is a profile that you want to be synonymous with you, and you can add some personality to it, but I still think that it should be just of you and a clean shot of your face. The second one from the left is a little too close. It's hard to really kind of get a feel for this person. It could be a man or a woman. The third one is a grainy, it looks like an older picture. It's not very professional looking, and again, that reflects on your brand. And then finally, the last one, it's pretty far out, so you can't really see who the person is. It's hard to identify. Again, there's two people in the photo, so it's confusing potentially to new clients on who the person is that you're actually engaging with. Successful profile pictures, pretty self-explanatory given the comparison to the ones we just looked at. It's really a good, clean, crisp headshot. You can add a little bit of personality, such as the lady in the field. The background's not too distracting. She still stands out, and it adds a little bit of her personality into it. Also, the gentleman with the hat and the other gentleman with the ties kind of got a relaxed posture, a very business look to him. So you kind of feel like you can get to know him just through his picture. And then finally, the last one on the right is a clear, crisp headshot and accurately depicts who she is and what she looks like. This is an example of my Twitter profile page. Again, clear picture, clear background image, although it doesn't translate well on the screenshot for the PowerPoint. But again, this is an accurate, up-to-date picture of who I am. It's friendly, it's warm and inviting, and you know, basically presents myself in a professional manner. Some free tools that I always share with folks to help improve their profile. We have twittercovers.com, and essentially these are all free images that you can use and download to use as your background image on your Twitter page to help you stand out and add to the professionalism of your Twitter page. These are the background images that are behind your headshot. EntrePlanet is also a great resource. You can see right here that it not only is for Twitter, but you can use it for all social networks. It has the dimensions and everything already built into it so that you can download images and adjust them to the actual dimensions required for each social network. So it's a great time saver and a lot of free resources there. One of my favorite tools, and many of you might use it for other things, is Canva.com. It allows you to not only build social media profiles, but it allows you to download free graphics for presentations, posters, infographics if you're creating those, business cards. It runs really the full gamut, and most of the images that we could use on our daily basis are free. There are a couple that you can download for minimal cost, but essentially I've never really had to go into any cost purchases for images I've needed to do any of the work that I've done, both for presentations and for social media profiles. So again, Canva.com, I can't strongly emphasize enough, is a great resource if you've never used it before. So we've got our profile set up. We've had the session with Pamela on personal branding, the couple tips that I just gave you on the Twitter profile. So what do we do now? And essentially, you just got to jump in and get engaged. And Twitter allows you to join conversations, connect with a whole new audience, and find information in real time. But you can't do that if you just sit back and wait for the information to come to you. You've got to get out there and search for new contacts, search for businesses to follow that you're trying to break into. Spend some time getting engaged, being a part of the conversation, respond to comments that are being made by businesses or companies that you're trying to break into from a sales perspective. You'll be amazed at how much re-engagement you'll get back from those clients or those businesses or industry followers responding back to you as well. And so by getting engaged, you'll organically grow your audience, your followers, and your personal brand within the social sphere. So why do you follow people? I always kind of look at, like, when people ask, who do you follow or who do you start to follow with when you're first getting into Twitter? And I kind of pin it back on them and say, well, why would you follow anyone? And really kind of breaks it down. Are you being entertained by their information? Are you being educated by their information? Are they offering you some sort of promotion or competitive information that you wouldn't otherwise be able to easily receive? exclusive content. Sometimes it's as simple as, I follow them because they follow me back, and it builds my audience. Sometimes it's because you've given them some sort of shout out or responded to any sort of conversation that's been going on online, and that's how the connection has been made. And then for B2C customers, it's a big channel for offering freebies or coupons to potential followers. What to tweet? And again, this all goes back to branding. You want to be consistent with your tweets, both on a amount of tweeting that you're doing per week or per day, but then also in the type of messaging. If you support server sales for IBM, if you're supporting content about server sales, but then you also break off and start, sharing tweets about things outside of IBM that don't really support that brand, and keep a consistent message on who you are and who your followers can rely on, that you're going to be a provider of information around server sales or IBM server updates, new specs, new product announcements, whatever it might be. If you start breaking out of that and then start providing information outside of that scope, then people will drop off or lose interest in following you and really listening to what you have to say. And again, you want to also find your voice. You don't just want to continue to push out the IBM marketing without adding your opinion, adding your thoughts or your unique dialogue to the messaging, so that people understand it's not just a sales pitch that's coming from IBM corporate that you're passing along. You strongly believe in it. You have an opinion about it. You have thoughts to add on the subject, and they want to follow you and engage with you in those discussions. Characteristics of a good tweet. You get 140 characters in every tweet that you send. That includes any media or web links that you attach to it as well. You want to keep the tweets as short as possible, and there's a couple different reasons behind that. A, you don't want to be too long-winded. This is a short, quick conversation medium. You want to make your points. You want to bring value. You want to spur interest with a call to action, whether it's to click on a website, click on a video, open an image, whatever it might be. You want to be short and to the point. It also allows them to forward or retweet and respond to you, and keep a lot of that content within the tweet and within the 140 characters. If you max it out at 140 characters and they go to retweet it, it's really hard. They have to change your messaging, and so some of your messaging might get diluted as you get expanded audiences retweeting and forwarding your messaging throughout Twitter. Good things to do are always to provide quotes. If you support Coca-Cola and you're trying to break into Coca-Cola as a client, and you see Coca-Cola in the news or in any kind of Business Insider journals, Wall Street Journal, and one of the contacts is being quoted within some article or publication, use that quote and send it directly to Coca-Cola. Send it directly to the person you're trying to get a meeting with, and reference that quote. It drives so much awareness. It drives so much response rates compared to if you were just to send out an email to a client that gets lost in all of the noise of the world today in email. You really do get a strong response rate. People like quotes and like to start dialogue around them. Questions are also evoking a response. You're engaging them and giving them a call to action by proposing a question, and when they respond back, then the conversation can really go from there, from around whether it's a product set or a solution, an issue that they might be having. Sometimes it's just good industry or thought leadership that comes out of it, and it enhances your brand and awareness throughout the industry. Basic tweet structure. Again, you've got 140 characters. It typically consists of a headline, a quote, a message, a question, and then the use of hashtags and any links or media that's attached to it. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail around each of these categories. Hashtags, for those that are brand new to Twitter, hashtags are essentially ways to allow you to open your messaging to search engines and folks that might not be following you directly, folks that are going into Twitter and searching around categories, specific words, industry topics, whatever it might be that you use the hashtag around, people can search for those topics and pull up any messaging that you share or contribute without actually having to follow you. So it allows you to expand your network, because now you're broadcasting out to folks that are not specifically following you, that they can then find you based on the topics that you're sharing and the words that you're using in your messaging. But be careful. It comes across as spam. A lot of times, one of the biggest mistakes people make is that we want to include hashtags on everything that we write, and it's hashtag use too many, and everything has got a hashtag to it, and it comes across looking like spam. It looks very salesy. There's some stats around that I'll share in a second that actually decline your engagement when people see too many hashtags. So I've always liked this slide. Friends don't let friends use too many hashtags. Again, hashtag usage tips. I'm not going to go through all of this in detail. You want to typically focus your hashtags very specifically on the messaging and the content that you're sharing. In the case of this group with NA server sales, focus around product names, product performance, industry terms. If you're trying to focus a message towards a company in a specific industry, maybe tag or hashtag those industry topics or terms that are hot or trending. But you want to use no more than 2 to 3 hashtags per message. After that, again, it becomes very diluted. It dilutes your message, but it also comes across as spam or very salesy, and we don't want to ever come across that you're just pushing a product. You want to be adding value at all times, contributing to the conversation at all times. And again, these are just some stats from Forrester as far as the use of hashtags. Typically, the engagement on tweets are 2x when you've included hashtags into your messaging. Hashtags with 1 or 2 included in a message have 21% higher engagement rate than those that have 3 or more. And then actually they've noticed a 17% decrease in engagement for those that have over 3 hashtags. So again, rule of thumb, 1 to 2 hashtags, focus purely on the messaging you're trying to get across. And the next slide is an example of that. So this organization is responsible for all the communications around events and activities that are going on for tourists, for people that live in the city of New York. They have a huge following, and they're constantly broadcasting different events and activities that are going on. But this is a great example of a good tweet. They're not trying to sell anything. They're not trying to push anything. They've got a great image that captures your attention, and they use a couple of simple hashtags, New York City, NYC, and the photo. And so for folks that are searching for information on New York City within Twitter, this is going to pop up in their search feed. This is going to pop up in their news feed, and it's going to grab their attention. And then they're going to follow New York City, so that New York City, when they do post about activities or events or actions in the coming future, those people are now followers, and they'll receive those directly in through their news feed. So sometimes you're doing things just to build audiences, build follower bases. It's not necessarily to sell or to promote a specific product. And this is a good example of that. So when do you tweet? So there's a ton of noise out there in the Twitter world, right? So you've got 300+ million active users of Twitter. And I think there's stats that range anywhere from 500 million to 1 billion impressions or tweets daily. That's not monthly, that's daily. So that's a lot of activity, that's a lot of noise out there that you really have to filter and to create times that your clients are actively in Twitter and looking for information and looking for content. And the goal is to tweet during those times. And so by doing that, you can look at both industry analysis, like this is a Forrester slide. This is something that they've looked at, the best times in general for folks to post content. Twitter is 12 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Oh, looks like I lost the presentation. There we go. So this is the best times from a forester perspective, from an overall industry perspective, 12 to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. One of the things that I'll share with you is as you go through and start to use Twitter and build your messaging, keep an eye on when people are following you, when people are engaging in your tweets, and kind of keep an eye on that. And then you can use different tools that we'll talk about next week on social listening to schedule your messaging during those times. So if you find that that's not the best time for your clients, if your clients aren't really on Twitter during those time periods, maybe it's really early in the morning or maybe it's really late at night, maybe you're on the West Coast, you're on the East Coast, really kind of pay attention to when those engagement periods are taking place. And then you can use tools like Hootsuite and others to schedule your messaging during those times to really ramp up the engagement process, right? There's a couple tools here that I've listed as a reference. Tweetsmap is a great reference to be able to see where all your followers are located. So once you've got a follower base, you can authenticate through Tweetsmap. It shows you where everyone's located. Twit is another one that helps you kind of identify best times to post based on when your followers are actively online and following other folks or posting content. So it kind of gives you a better understanding of when to post and when not to. A mention is essentially you'll see the @ symbol. That's when you're sending a message through Twitter that's directed specifically to a certain follower or a certain person within Twitter. So if you're trying to target a customer and you've tried emailing them, you tried calling them, you haven't gotten a response, if you search and find them on Twitter, you can put an @ symbol and their Twitter handle and send them a direct message, or you can just mention them in a message that you're broadcasting out to all of Twitter. That's going to stand out again from all the noise. It's going to separate you from everyone else that's trying to reach them through the various channels of today. And it gives you a better opportunity to engage in a dialogue or a conversation with them. And not to say that you're going to sit there and you're going to say, hey, can I get a meeting with you to talk about NA servers or IBM server capabilities? Maybe do some research ahead of time and find out what issues that company is having or topics that are hot in that industry right now, and mention them in a thought-leading discussion, and invite them to the discussion. Ask them a question. What are their thoughts on the issues that are facing the industry today? And get them involved in the dialogue, and then that will lead to conversations that might lead to a face-to-face meeting, uncovering additional needs or opportunities that can allow us to then drive revenue or close business within that account. Retweeting is a great option as well. If you are trying to find customers on Twitter, you can search for them by name. If you know by Twitter handle based on their websites or content that they've published, you can search by that as well. See what they're talking about. Listen to what they're talking about. You can follow them and stay engaged with them, participate in the conversation. If they share something that's thought-leading or intriguing that you want to share with your audience, retweet them. Forward that out to your followers. They get notified that you just shared their content, so they're going to be thankful for the fact that you're sharing their content to your followers, building their brand, building their awareness. They're going to be more inclined to engage with you when you reach out to them, possibly through a direct message or a direct mention. Again, direct messages. Twitter has made a lot of changes in this very recently. It used to be you were limited to 140 characters. It's almost like the email system within Twitter. You're sending a private message to one follower within Twitter. You do have to be careful. There have been cases where some of the information gets out. It's not as secure as email, so it is private, so you're not sharing it with all of your followers or all the folks within Twitter. It is specifically sent to one person. But some great advances that they're making in this is that now I think you have up to 10,000 characters, so it's essentially an email or similar to LinkedIn as far as InMail is concerned, to be able to reach out and talk and carry on conversations with with followers or potential clients directly without the rest of the world seeing it. You can also send video, which is another exciting way to differentiate yourself. For folks that are really looking to become savvy in this, you can send video messages to them directly where it's you speaking. Or if it's just a video that you want to share from an IBM perspective or an industry perspective, you can send that in a direct message now without having to post it to everyone that's out there on Twitter. A couple things, just kind of going through acceptable content to share and unacceptable content. You know, it's pretty common sense. This is a public network. It's a public site. Anything that you share on Twitter is public. So just the main things that you want to be aware of is you're representing yourself, you're representing IBM and your personal brand. So be appropriate, have fun with it, and invest in creating dialogue that's fun and exciting and bringing value to folks. But be respectful for other people's beliefs and remember that you are representing yourself as a personal brand, IBM as a company. You also don't want to share, obviously, confidential information, customer-specific information. There's certain instances where customers have agreed to be a reference, then go through the reference tools within IBM to share that content. Don't just share information publicly that has not gone through the appropriate approvals within IBM. But again, it really comes down to just use common sense, be active, create content and participate, but just be understanding that you're constantly representing yourself, and all this information is for public consumption, so you want to keep that in mind as you post things. And again, that's what I was going through here with the unacceptable content. Here's another slide of good examples, again, of tweets. Notice the imagery. And tweets that have hashtags, as I mentioned, are 16 to 17% higher on the engagement average. But then when you add a URL that has an image or a video attached to it or a GIF file, that's going to stand out. It's going to jump off the page. If you just have text in 140 characters with a web link, it kind of blends into the noise. Again, think about it. There's 500 million to a billion tweets sent out on a daily basis. So you want to find imagery, you want to find videos, you want to find graphics that help contribute to the message that you're posting, that you're trying to initiate, that coincide with that message and really help jump off the page and drive awareness. And then quickly, I'm going to go through Twitter list. The good segue with that is there's 500 to a billion tweets being sent out daily. There's 300 million active users on Twitter. It's a ton of information. It's a ton of messages that are flying through there. So to really target your activity is to use Twitter lists, and that filters the noise. It filters the messaging that you receive. You can build Twitter lists around specific followers. You can build Twitter lists around specific hashtags. So if there's certain topics within the industry that you want to see in your news feed, you can go to that Twitter list and see only things on server technology or the hashtag use within IBM servers or certain industries, whether it's industrial or whatnot. You can really target the messaging down to those topics, to those discussion points, and it allows you to filter through the noise. If you go through your home screen right here, this is your profile page. If you click on your profile icon in the top right, you can then access your list through that function right there. Or if you click on your actual profile, you'll see in the top toolbar right across the top, you have your tweets, all the folks that you're following, all of your followers, and then you have your list right here. So if you were to click on list, it would pull up all the lists that you have here currently, both from your creation standpoint, or if somebody has added you to a list, you will see all of those displayed right here in this section. Creating a list is very simple. By simply creating a list, there's a little button right here that you select that says Create List. This window will pop up. You can give it a name, a description. There's an important piece right here where you can either have that list be public or private. A public list is open to anyone that's on Twitter. So if anyone is searching for certain topics or certain areas, they can access or subscribe to your list that you've created. If you set a private list, then it's only for your consumption. It's only the people that see that are only approved users under your Twitter handle. If you're a company, if you're an individual user, you're the only one that can see that. Private lists are great for using to follow competitors, to follow clients without them knowing that you're following them, so that you can then listen to the industry, listen to what the competition is saying. You can listen to what clients are saying without actually having to follow them or to publicly broadcast that you're following them. And so I strongly encourage the use of lists. We'll go through that a little bit more in detail next week when we go through social listening, but I do want to kind of touch on that and kind of give you an idea that this functionality is built into Twitter and is run off of the Twitter engine. So when we talk about social listening next week, we'll be using this functionality to drive information through tools like Hootsuite. Again, just kind of gives you an idea inside a list. Say we have a list called IBMers. We have 56 members. You can see all of the members very quickly and easily by clicking on list of members. If there's anybody subscribing to it and it's a public site or a public list, you can click on this and see who's subscribed to that. You can click on tweets, and you'll only see tweets from these 56 members. Instead of 300 million that are out there in Twitter, you have narrowed it down to these 56 folks that you want to listen to, you want to follow, you want to see what they're posting and talking about. Again, it gives you a great ability to narrow your focus and to filter the noise within Twitter to specific topics, specific people and industries that you want to focus on. And we'll go through that more again next week. Adding people to your list, very easy. You're basically searching either by name. You can go to your followers list. So anybody that's following you, you can pull up all of those folks and quickly add them by clicking on the settings tool right here. Then it's going to pop up this window, and you're going to add or remove to the list. So you can very quickly go through and add folks. Once you click add to remove the list, it pulls up all the lists available that you can add this gentleman to. You can select all three. You can select just one. Or you can create a new list if you're going through that and say, you know what, I want to put Gary into a brand new list for East Coast social matter experts, and then create that list, put Gary into it, and now you're off and running. Once you have been in Twitter for a while and you've been managing multiple lists and you've got multiple lists growing, it can get a little bit complex. Here's a great free tool that I like to broadcast out to folks, Twit List Manager. It's an absolutely free tool. There's no charge at all. You authenticate with Twitter. If you look closely on this screenshot right here, this would be all of the followers or members that you have in your Twitter. Say these are your different lists. You can quickly go through and click and unclick, add and drop different folks right here onto these lists in a matter of seconds rather than going through individually and adding and dropping. So I like to put a little commercial out for that because it's a good time saver. Twitter search operators, again, these are great devices. You know, for me, when I first started using Twitter, I wasn't very savvy as far as how to search and find information. This kind of gives you, very similar to the vocabulary slide, a good reference slide to be able to look back on when you're doing or conducting searches within Twitter, to be able to utilize this operator function to be able to really narrow and hone in on various searches and the creation of lists and creating followers and so forth. So I strongly encourage maybe keeping this on hand somewhere that you can easily access when you're going through your various Twitter searches. Free tools that I also kind of like to throw out there to folks to enhance Twitter. We won't spend a ton of time on it, but I usually just provide this as a reference, and feel free to go back and look at some of these tools to see how you can better utilize. Twitonomy is a free and a paid site. There's free functionality included in it, so essentially if you were to type in a hashtag or if you were to look at your own accounts based on your authentication with Twitter, it would pull up a lot of the information, people, their tweets, so you can find out information of when they've been online, how big of an influential following that they have. So it's a great tool to kind of take a look at some of the analytics behind certain hashtags or certain people, and do a little bit of research on your end before you start to reach out and engage folks into conversation. Buffer is a very similar tool to Hootsuite as far as social listening. It allows you to find content. We also have IBM's Social Content Library, which curates content. This is all third-party content. It allows you to share based off of your settings. So if you have specific industries or specific types of customers that you want to follow and get news on, Buffer is a great tool to allow you to do that. It's a free tool as well. Feedly is a one that I use. It's essentially become my newspaper in the morning. I basically have it set up to where I receive news feeds on all of my major online publications or what used to be my newspapers, and receive that on a daily basis. It's updated live, real time. So as new news topics come about or industry topics come about, you can simply hit refresh, and it gives you a live stream of the news from an individual publication standpoint, or you can look at all the news on one screen. It's a great tool. It really has replaced my newspapers and morning reading. It's a great way to stay on top of what's going on in the industry, or specifically with certain people that are blogging or customers. It's a great content source to share via Twitter. And then Klout, I'm not sure if folks are familiar with Klout. I don't use it so much from a content perspective, although you can, very similar to Feedly and Buffer. But what I do strongly encourage is to go out to Klout and authenticate with your social profiles. And the reason I say that is Klout provides a score, and that's your social influence score via Klout. And sometimes when people are searching for industry leaders or specific people to follow within Twitter or to engage in discussions within Twitter, they will use Klout as a way to fine-tune their searches when they're looking for people. So I strongly encourage authenticating with Twitter and LinkedIn, especially, and if you use Google+, maybe add Google+. But I strongly encourage doing that. It won't take very long to create an account within Klout, and it just opens you up to better search results when people are trying to find you as an industry or a product leader in your space. And this is just another screenshot of Klout. Again, there's some analytics behind it to kind of show you any kind of trending that's going on as far as your social impact or social score that they put together, and the different social tools that factor into that score. And with that is the end of my presentation. We are about 45 minutes in, so we have about another 15 minutes. Hopefully you don't feel like this guy right here, but I know this was definitely a fire hose of information, and I'm going to open it up for questions. You can hit *1 to unmute and ask any questions that you might have, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it sounds like we don't have a lot of questions right now. If there are any questions after the presentation and you have a chance to digest and absorb some of the information that came out of today's session, feel free to reach out to me through email, give me a call, same time me. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Always happy to work individually with folks to share any strategies or thoughts on how to better use Twitter in your specific job role or function. So again, I appreciate everyone's time today. We will be having a session next week in regards to social listening, which will take some of the building blocks that we talked about on today's call and how to apply them to really develop strategies around social listening and the use of Twitter lists, Hootsuite, and other tools to really define the account sets and the clients that you're wanting to focus in on. So with that, I'm going to end today's session, and I truly appreciate everyone's time. And there will be a recording sent out via email to all the folks that have registered today. And again, I thank you for your time, and have a great day.